Hello, it's the A to Z podcast. I am Zach Jackson. He is Andre Knott. We are at Akron Jackson, at Dre Knott on most of your favorite social media platforms. Facebook.com/A to Z podcast, A2Zpodcast.com. Shouts as always to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks. Always open at AmericanFireworks.com. But thinking about summer thoughts here in this miserable storm, make your plans for your family get-togethers, graduation parties, all sorts of fun stuff, and hopefully we'll have fun stuff to do again. AmericanFireworks.com. If you're new here, welcome. We get excited. We venture into mature/immature subjects and say four-letter words from time to time. So if that's not for you, if you're in a work environment or if there are kids around, either put on your earbuds or come back and listen to A to Z at another time. Good morning, Andre.
Good afternoon, Zach. I say don't leave. Turn this up. Tell your kids this is the new class. It's called President's Day, where you learn the words that real Americans say. It'll be all right. The kids will be okay. Happy Valentine's Day weekend to all. Hope everybody was able to take care of their wives, their girlfriends, if they have both, and their side women. A lot of candy on sale. I know the bad weather's coming, but no matter where you live, there's a lot of candy you can get for 50% off. That's the fat boy part of this podcast, where I help you get all those Reese cups for half price with all the hearts and all that other good stuff. Works for me, works for you. You can do it on Easter too, which is coming up on April 4th. I just want to help the people out stay fat as best they can. As I'm doing something that I've never before done in our how many ever years of podcasting, I am on my stationary bike. Yeah, times two. I am on my stationary bike right now in my basement doing this podcast. I'm not going 100 miles an hour. I'm moving my legs. Have I done podcasts from my basement for you guys many a times? Yes, but usually it's dark outside and I got a bunch of beers in front of me and I'm down here because my wife doesn't want to hear me clanging the cans together. But today I'm riding the bike, so we'll see how that goes.
You are multitasking. It's funny you say that about wives and girlfriends. The other night we went to see this band play, local place that obviously we haven't in a long time, right? Mindy likes them and they were playing kind of semi-local, so I said, let's go. And it's not at a place that is in my regular rotation by any means when the world's regular, but we kind of had a seat over in the corner. Everybody was still spread out, and hell, there was probably only 20 people there. But as I was kind of looking around and refamiliarizing myself with the place, because it was like the third time I've been in a bar in a year, right? Right. There was a sign in this particular bar that said, I'm not sure if this is verbatim or not, but I think it is. It said, "Be nice to your bartenders. They know your wives and your girlfriends." So I thought that was...
That's true. That's true. One more thing, since you brought it up, and this is me going totally out of bounds, but I can't help it. I woke up Saturday, maybe Friday or Saturday, to my wife, because I don't really do Facebook, but my wife does. And she knows what I like to indulge in and what I don't indulge in when it comes to Facebook. But I saw a post from you that was one of the funniest Zach Jackson moments. No, I got to take a Brian Windhorst word. One of the funniest Zach fucking Jackson moments of my life, where you broke down and kind of came out. It was kind of your coming home, your Sports Illustrated article of you being in a relationship. Would you like to indulge the company on how that came about?
Earned, not given, right?
Right.
That's funny. I was actually going to say, let's start this podcast by talking about your favorite subject, you. I want you to enlighten me on something. When we see you on TV here, and I honestly don't know if that's going to be in 2 weeks or 2 months, and maybe you don't know either, but I read the headline. I read the first 5 graphs of the article. I've known this is going on for a while, but I truly don't know anything about it. So from what you know, when we see you with the Indians, what will the name of the channel be? And I guess then the follow-up to that is, will anything really be different, that we'll notice when we start watching the Indians, assuming that they start in April?
Let me go to my email first, because I don't want to get the name wrong, because I got new bosses. Well, I mean, from what we've been told, Zach, the game will look like the game. Like, the game will be the main focus, as it should be. But there will be hints of little things that are different, things that are kind of going forward. I know The Athletic kind of has some of the same ideas going across. Obviously, it's literature and it's not television. Bally's Sports they bought in a while ago. We've kind of known the name change was coming. I know it's been Fox Sports forever, but we haven't been owned by Fox Sports for now over a year. And so the name change was kind of coming. As far as we've been told, you won't see STO or Sports Time Ohio or Fox Sports once the season starts. I don't know if that means in spring training you will see this, but supposedly by April 1st, when you see games, I think our station will be Bally Sports Great Lakes or Bally Great Lakes, something of that nature. It just rolls off the tongue. Sounds so natural, right?
Yeah.
Between that name change and the team's name change coming forward, I'm probably going to get fired because I'm never going to know where the hell I'm at or what team I'm covering.
Well, at your age, you don't adapt to change really well. I know that.
No. So the other thing that'll come across though, you will see that, and we were told early on that you will see some betting lines, possibly something. You may see the over under for a game. I think baseball, and I'm not the biggest bettor on this podcast, but I know a little bit about it. But I've never understood betting baseball very much. So I'm sure there'll be numbers up there at certain times. We'll see how it grows and how it goes, but it's kind of where our society's going. You may see me. We don't have the dates for sure. I'm thinking mid-March, you may see some baseball games on your television from Arizona. And as of this moment, I may be there. It sounds like I'll be there is what I'll leave it at.
Okay.
And, but it sounds like I'll be there. We shall see. Obviously this year is kind of, with baseball, is just kind of getting thrown together all at once. So, 70 some hours ago, I may have told you a different story, but as of now, you probably will see me there for a couple games in mid-March is what I would say.
Yeah. So Bally Sports Great Lakes is what I had seen. And, I get it, part of the rebrand. It's not the first time, but, really for our adult plus lives, it's been Fox Sports Ohio. It was different things before that, right? And they've had different versions of how local or what they carry. I guess this is my question. Right now, or for the last however many years, there's been Fox Sports Ohio, on which you watch the Cavs and the Blue Jackets, and there's been Sports Time Ohio, on which you watch the Indians. So when it's Bally's Great Lakes, is there still going to be two channels, or are you eventually going to be on one channel?
I think because of, it's kind of crazy because we only think about where we're at. And obviously,
sure.
The whole cable and the whole cable and streaming thing is very odd right now for all of us. And I get it. There are people right now that are already getting ready to tweet or send us messages and tell me to screw off because they don't get the games anymore because their company no longer carries it. Screw this company. I hear you. Supposedly they're going to find a way to sell the stations. I don't want to say organically, but there's going to be a way, supposedly, from what we've been told, that if you want Indians baseball, Reds baseball, Blue Jackets hockey, Cavaliers basketball, that there's going to be a way for you to make it a part of your package with streaming, is what we've been told. To answer your question, no, I think there's still going to be two stations because of what you just said, what you just asked. They still have, in our region, we still have the Crew, the Blue Jackets, the Indians, obviously the Cavs, the Reds are a part of our building as well. So the two stations won't go away, and I think the Fox Sports Go, obviously online way of watching, will stay, but they're going to change those to Bally's pretty soon too. And I think there's going to be content on Bally's.com. But if I'm wrong, I say my apologies. I've just read in different places these are some of the ideas they have. So I know they had to get rid of a station, I want to say in the Carolina, Tennessee, Florida type area, but all of ours will still be here. So you'll have two platforms, TV station-wise, still, just with different names. Okay.
Yeah, and I know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I know there's uncertainty with how everything is going to work. And, when we last did the podcast, we still wasn't sure baseball was even going to start on time, right? But, I saw today that pitchers and catchers report in a week or something, or 2 weeks, right? And that's still going to go and the rest is for details, correct?
Correct. As of now, yeah. I texted Jason Kipnis a couple hours ago. He's in Florida getting ready to start with the Atlanta Braves. Baseball is going to start this week, yes.
Oh, you went too far there. You should have said, you could have played a game. Guess who Jason Kipnis is, what team he's on right now.
My bad. It really was name dropping, but Kip, I don't even see as a name drop. He's just like you could try like I don't know. You know, like certain athletes like are no longer athletes to us. They're just guys that we bust balls with. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Where you don't think, and that was with Kip. He just signed a contract with the Braves, and I didn't text him like. And that's the weird thing and where I'm at in my career. I didn't text him to like tweet it out because I didn't tweet it out. I texted him just like as a guy, like, hey man, congrats. Glad you're still willing to pay you. Keep fooling them. You know, I'm happy for you, fool. I'm like, fool them until they realize you're done. And he like laughed. He goes, I'm with you. So no, I should have done that, but I'm not smart enough to think that far ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, it was the Super Bowl a week plus ago, and so it was Valentine's Day. It was Daytona, which is always, it kind of in a normal year signifies that we're turning the corner, right? Like the NCAA tournament is next. And I'm not a Daytona guy. I'm not a NASCAR guy. If you've listened, you know that. I've participated in a Daytona party or 6 in my time, and I watch it. I will tell you this, speaking of Bally's and of betting and all that, and later we'll talk about why it's not legal in Ohio and how there's going to be some head scratching with that. Anyway, Springer, our buddy the CFO, texted me yesterday, and he says, give me some NASCAR. I'm a sicko. I don't need it, or I don't know anything about it. Give me some NASCAR picks. And I said, well, I'm a sicko. I don't know anything about it, but I have studied up. So I said, Denny Hamlin, he owns the track. I said, Joey Logano, based on some articles I've read and podcasts I've listened to, and yes, I did listen to NASCAR podcasts. He's a guy, and I said, and take this guy, Michael McDowell, top 10. And
you must have read The Athletic.
Top 10 was like plus 320, which for $10 was 32, and that was a nice win for me. Do you think I played Michael McDowell at 80-1 to win? No, but the CFO did, and I am a certified NASCAR genius. Thank you.
He better give you 10%. You guys had that one of your on the, and it plays into what I was going to ask you. The Athletic had a guy that put McCormick as a sleeper to take because of the top, because he's great in those type of tracks. And because like 4 of his 6 top 10 finishes before last night were all at Daytona 500. The other thing is he's based out of Glendale, Arizona, right where spring training is at in Arizona. And it's kind of funny to me. That's where a NASCAR team is located and built. I will say this is 20 years. I'm a little bit more, if you've listened to this podcast, I'm a little bit more of a NASCAR racing fan than Zach. Zach had one of the best tweet texts to me that I've gotten from him in about a year. Yesterday, I got a drunken text from him that the old Zach Jackson was back. To say the least, it made my day. I'll leave it alone what he said to me. That's just something for him and I. But I'll say this is 20 years since Dale Sr. died at the Daytona 500, and 500 worked out fine for me. It rained all day. I got to watch the last 50 to 60 laps at night. I think the Daytona 500, I know there's all this history, and I know this is going to be like Ohio State, Michigan. If I'm the Daytona 500, I start starting that sucker at 6 o'clock because it looked great at night last night for me. But I'll say this, and I'm saying this, and I love racing. I'm not like I'm not going to say I'm love, but I enjoy it. It's 20 years after Dale Sr. died, and I know a lot of precautions and a lot of the practices are better and keeps the drivers safer than they've ever been before. But if they want to keep driving 200 miles an hour and letting these cars get the way they get behind each other, and letting all the Fords get behind each other, letting all the Toyotas get behind each other, and then in that last lap having what we had last night, we're going to be doing a memorial on somebody else sooner or later. They got to find a different way to do this. Was it exciting? Sure. Does it make the fan like and shit? Zach probably didn't even see the end. He's probably asleep already.
Oh, long
because it was after midnight.
Long asleep, yes.
Yeah, because when I saw your text, I knew you were going to be asleep before it got dark. But, I mean, it's an exciting finish. It was exciting, but NASCAR, and like I said, most people don't even see it. They see it on a clip this morning. We weren't excited. Like I didn't even tweet anything. And like, what other sport does this? I didn't even tweet anything at the last lap of the Daytona 500 last night because I didn't want to look back and look like a jackass for saying something one way or the other because I didn't know if somebody died, if somebody got hurt really bad. We didn't know who won at the time. It looks great. It looks like something out of a movie with all the fire and all these cars all over the place. And damn, I'm getting old because I can't believe I'm saying this, but I just can't see how that's your Super Bowl of racing, and damn near every car that mattered ended up in flames. Like, it looked like something out of a crazy movie that you would, at the end, and you would all high five. It didn't look like real people were in those cars. I just don't know how long they can continue on doing it the way they're doing it, Zach, without a huge catastrophe.
Yeah, I was watching the race, but I probably went to bed with 60 laps or so left. I can tell you, before I was out of bed this morning, I was on Twitter, reading about it, and was able to see that, and it was a holy shit. To see the humongous flame, I guess is the best way, or flames, the best way to say it. Yeah, I mean, that's the risk they run, right? I'll put it this way. I've learned a lot about the sport, and I learned it last year during the pandemic from watching the iRacing. And, there was one too many microphones for Kyle Larson, but a couple of the guys they had mic'd up from time to time and who were explaining things and, doing it digitally that way to show what they do. Knowing Denny Hamlin at Daytona sits back for the first X amount of laps, right, and lets the craziness happen in front of him.
Right.
Right. Something I remember seeing last year and saying, what is he doing? Does he just not have a car today? And he won the race. And weird that professionals would know more than podcasters. But I still don't know a ton about it. It's just not something I was ever, really into. I think I've said before, I had the Bill Elliott hat in the early 90s because he was red and black number 11, and I was number 11 on the Manchester 7th grade basketball team.
You were also 4'11".
Right. Yeah, and I was 4'11 too. Yeah, you fucking prick. And like now, if you lined up 10 people, I wouldn't know which one Bill Elliott was, right? But I had the hat, and I, like I said, I follow it.
There's a Chase Elliott. There's a Chase Elliott that races now, at least.
That's his dad. Is that his son?
I think so.
Okay.
Sabo's somewhere on the side of a road choking us both out with a voodoo doll.
Yeah, but you see, like,
Chase Elliott.
Well, hang on one second to tie this back in here. Like, why I know NASCAR got really big, right? We're talking 15, 18 years ago now, and it's kind of tapered off, I guess, in terms of TV ratings. I don't know about the business itself. I won't claim to know the first thing. But, like, why am I watching it? Because especially I wasn't at a Daytona 500 party yesterday, right?
Right.
Of the ones I know about, they were either not going on or happening in a much reduced fashion due to the pandemic. But what's the tie? Well, you can have top 5, top 10, top 20 without leaving your living room, depending on where you live. On DraftKings, I had teams, right? Like, I didn't put in any thought to it, but, like, I don't know any science to it, but I do know how they score DraftKings on NASCAR. I do know Daytona 500 ends in craziness, so sometimes the Michael McDowells of the world win, right? I'm going to read you this from a Slack message from a coworker who is involved with the Athletic betting page. And over on Friday night, he had said, if you have any college basketball insights, pass it my way. So on Saturday at 9:33 a.m., I said first play today, Kentucky-Auburn over 146. At 9:53 a.m., he writes back, I'm in. I'm going to parlay it with one of these NASCAR picks to spice up the odds. 9:54, me. I'm listening to a NASCAR podcast now. Might as well throw myself off the bridge. Then Michael McDowell came home a winner.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, though. Because I think you're onto something that I think is partial to who we are and where we're at in sports. Do you see the sporting world changing a little bit? I think it already has when you read Twitter and you read social media. But as the valleys of Great Lakes continue, as the Athletic brings betting into more of the focus, as betting becomes legal throughout most of the country, hello, Ohio, hurry up. And there's already this, and we know it. We have friends that are degenerates. Do you feel like watching of sports and the way that the sports are taken in will be a little bit different or more different as we go forward, as you'll have more people that are into just the betting of it rather than the actual sport itself? Because, because you just kind of said yourself, like, it is more interesting. Like, you don't have a big draw to NASCAR, but after you have a couple teams, it seems a little bit, you pay a little bit more attention. It's a little bit like I have a neighbor who he has his first year fantasy basketball team. And he asked me about it, and I was like, dude, I did it 1 year. It's too much. It's always, players in and out. But if you got the time for it and you got the patience for it, go for it. He loves it. It's making him pay attention to basketball teams and players he would never pay attention to. Is that kind of where sports and teams are going right now and selling their product? And maybe I don't think so. But baseball obviously is one of those sports that needs to kind of look in the mirror and say, okay, how do we gain more attention? How do we gain more, eyes to the prize, to our game? Is betting going to be that thing? Because betting has always been there, but it's been like the uncle that nobody introduces to anybody because you're a little embarrassed because of how much he smokes, drinks, and cusses.
Yeah, it is. Like, the leagues have gone, and of course it's because they can make money off of it, right? But the leagues have gone from condemning it to embracing it. Yeah. The Washington football team that doesn't have a name has an official betting partner. It became legal in Virginia just not even 2 months ago. And the next day after it passed, they had a deal in place, right?
Right.
It is, Dre. And you sat in some of the same training camp seminars I did, right? When we heard from the NFL officials who would say they cannot enter a casino, right, without permission from their bosses. Right. They get routinely their finances checked up and down. If they move, even if they just bought a house in the same neighborhood, they know they're going to get vetted 3 times over, making sure they're not taking money or suddenly came into money or something like that, right? And integrity of the game is big. But, when I was in London 3 years ago, there were more betting parlors on the street than convenience stores. They were just like here, where when you leave your house, there's the Circle K and there's the Get Go, and on the other side of the highway, there's that other gas station. So you got 3 options within a mile and a half to get your coffee or get your gas. Well, in London forever, you've had 3 options to get the best line on the Everton game. Now here it's mobile betting, and that's the thing. You never leave. I haven't been to Vegas in 5 or maybe even more years, but I guess you don't even have to go to the counter now when you're there. You download the apps and you fill your account. And so from wherever you are, as long as you're in Nevada state lines, you just bet that way.
One of the scariest things I ever did a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I went to Vegas during the first day. You remember this? There's TV to prove it. I couldn't talk on TV. I lost my voice. I went there during the NCAA tournament, and when we walked in, I had no idea. They told me, they were like, "Hey, you can download our app. Put it an app on your phone. You're staying here in the hotel. You can do it right from your room." I woke up, my phone not working, but I was up $3,000. It was one of the most surreal things. I remember the last bet I made on that Friday night. I bet Portland to beat the Cavs, and this is LeBron Cavs. And I remember because I hit on a couple upsets. So it doesn't matter because I ended up losing the money anyway. But I remember it towards the end of the night, and I'd been drinking since 3, so it was very blurry eyed. And I was like, Cavs never win in Portland. And whoever was by me was like, dude, they're like, LeBron's going to kill him. I didn't watch 3 baskets go in or out. But I woke up and the next day, I woke up and looked at my phone and was like, holy shit, I hit on that game and didn't even watch it. That was the end of my luck.
Well, I would just, not knowing anything about the government other than we're always late to the party here in Ohio, I would just say 2 things. One, you eventually want to do it right to the point that you are maximizing your return, right? And you're making money. You're getting the taxes. It's beneficial for whoever it's going to benefit. Your schools, your roads, whatever. Right. And then the second thing is the concern over problem gambling, right? And knowing that it's great and it's perfectly fine for people to put $20 on some Daytona driver to finish in the top 10 because that spices up their Sunday afternoon in the middle of February. But you don't want people chasing minor league college basketball and losing their ass, right? Which can happen. It's, so that's the thing. And then, then that's the old argument. Does government have the moral obligation to save people from themselves? I'm not trying to go one bit political on anything here, guys. I don't smoke weed. Weed should be legal. I've been around sports betting my whole life. It should be legal. It just whatever. There's a right way to do it. I think I talked about it. When I drove to Nashville in December, you get 30 miles from the Tennessee line. and every billboard is for DraftKings Sportsbook, for MGM,
Yep.
Bet Online. You know, every sports talk station in Nashville, Knoxville, Louisville, every commercial is get on board, right? Kentucky right now is the only state that borders Ohio that does not have legal online sports wagering. You go 1 mile over the border, you go from Hubbard, Ohio to Sharon, PA, and right there you're legal. You come 1 mile back and you're not legal. Seems really dumb. Seems like a lot of money going to Pennsylvania. You go down Route 11, 30 miles. You go onto Route 30, over the bridge, West Virginia, legal. Back over the bridge to beautiful East Liverpool, Ohio, not legal. Seems like we're missing something, right? Like,
Absolutely.
You know, so again, I don't know, and I know there was a bill that had been out there. I don't know what the status was going to be, but it was kind of aimed towards the end of 2020. Then the world got flipped on side its head, so I don't know if that will be resumed, if it will be tweaked. But, you know, Michigan just went mobile a couple of months ago, right before Virginia. Indiana has been mobile for at least a year, because it was a year ago I was there for the Combine, the last, you know, bit of normalcy in an NFL writer's life, you know, in the last 12 months. So we'll see. But, you know, what is Bally is going to have? 13 regional networks, right? And most of them are going to be in legal betting states. I mean, I'll say this, speaking of NASCAR, I watch more golf now than I ever have before, because frankly, instead of being at open locker room sessions or being on the road for work, I'm working from home. So they've embraced it. And when the feed comes on Thursday afternoon or Thursday morning, you know, welcome to such and such country club, the first thing they're showing you in those groups is not the guy's putting stats. It's the betting odds for that day. Log on right now to our official partner, the PGA's official gambling partner, and before this group tees off, bet on today's 3-ball. And it's comical because some of the announcers don't even understand. But it's like, it's kind of like sports writers and the internet. Either fucking get used to social media or go work somewhere else. How it was 15 years ago, right? So it's here to stay. It's going to be that way. And I guess we could segue by saying, you know, just bet against Cavs every night.
I got two. I've told y'all one of them. One of them is take the Nets and take the over with the Nets. And, the Cavaliers thing is, I think, very interesting, and I think this is fun. And this is kind of why we started this podcast, because we don't have a program director telling us what to talk about and how we can talk about it or not to talk about. So we'll do it this way. The Cavs are, in my estimation, and I don't know even how Zach's going to react to this. The Cavs are, in my estimation, exactly where they plan to be. Look at their roster. Why they keep paying Kevin Love and keep giving him contract extensions, way beyond me. That's a whole different story, different podcast. I love the enthusiasm and excitement that we all had, minus even the Nets games. Okay, they beat the Nets back-to-back, and we've come to find out the Nets have had to look in the mirror and realize, okay, we can score 120, but if we don't try to stop passes and switch, we're going to lose to anybody and everybody, because they've lost to other bad teams as well. And for us, it was almost like, you know, they beat this team with all these stars twice in a row, and they played well against a couple other teams. You know, the parade started, because obviously in every city, you get a couple big wins nowadays, and you see your young players starting to play, you know, like how the organization told you. It's hard to hold your water, right? It's hard to, like, for most, especially with social media and things like that. It was a good run by the Cavaliers. But when you look at, and I remember Zach being one of the people that kind of, and if I'm wrong, you tell me I'm wrong. But I remember as they were winning a couple games, I was tweeting, hey, they're fun to watch. They play hard. You enjoyed it. You didn't watch a lot, but you kind of were like, you kind of text, what is Kobe doing? This doesn't help the process. I hate the process of lose until you get a ton of draft picks real high. And you know, I don't like it. It's where we're at. You can talk about it with the baseball franchise, with the football franchise. I've complained about teams going out of their way to lose. I get it, though, with the Cavs. You're not going to get a free agent that comes here. And really, Zach, they sit in a situation now. Like, I'll be honest. This is Monday afternoon. I'm going to watch a little bit of this is Golden State and the Cavs. 5 years ago, I could damn near sell out a bar to watch this game at 10 o'clock tonight. I'll maybe watch 5 minutes or so. If it's close, I'll watch more. Who knows what I'll watch? But they played last night against the Clippers. Clippers didn't play their best 2 players, and I honestly watched the Daytona 500 and didn't really care what happened in the Cavs game because I kind of had an idea what was going to happen. Now, in saying all of that, Andre Drummond has the best life ever right now. And really, this is what we knew was going to happen a year ago when they traded for him, right? They just bought a contract. They cared about the asset, not the player. And I want to say this the nicest way possible, and I know NBA people see this better than I do. He has the most empty, full stat sheet that I've ever watched in my whole life. Yes, I know you can brag about him and say he's like a double-double machine, and I'll say okay. And I will look at you, Zach, and say it's the most empty, most zero feeling I've ever seen in a guy getting 20 and 12 or 20 and 15 that I've ever seen. And I don't know how that's possible, but it's possible. But I hope they get something for him because they're just spending Dan Gilbert's money to get draft picks. Now, that did help them get Kyrie Irving, and that did help them get LeBron back here, and that did help them get a championship. But they still got a far way to go up that mountain with the roster that they have currently. And I'll say this, I like Sexton a lot. I'm still, I don't know, iffy on Garland. I just don't know where he fits, how it fits, especially when you already have one smaller guard. Here's the thing I'll say about them without being mean. They are both 2 very talented kids with the ball in their hand. Kid being a key word. It is so hard for them to score every basket that they score because they usually are 2 of the smallest guys on the court. Yeah. You know, I'm trying to say it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying they're not talented because they are. But when you're one of the smallest guys on the court every single night, every basket is a little bit harder to make because you're facing taller, faster guys every single night.
Yeah, I mean, 2 quick thoughts. One on the Drummond thing and just the whole predicament they're in. When you're this bad, and frankly, losing is the goal, as much as everyone hates it, right? And it makes it uncomfortable and it makes it awful. You have to take some of these chances on guys, and many of the times you're going to find out there's a reason nobody else wanted him. There's a reason his previous team was giving away. There's a reason you couldn't take and spin that asset into something, right? And that's not any personal thing on Andre Drummond, who I do not know, who frankly I've enjoyed watching play since he was at UConn because he was a unique, big monster throwback post player at a time when there aren't many of those, right?
Right.
And could have 22 and 22 in a college game, could have 22 and 22 in an NBA game, could miss a free throw by 8 feet, could flat out dominate for you, and then could flat out no show, right? When you're the Cavs and you know that A and even B list free agents are not going to be there for you and you're in a total rebuild, you're going to have to take some of those chances. And frankly, if 2 of 10 work, then those 2 work, right? What's more frustrating than that in the losing and, that the 3 weeks ago that they were beating the Nets and playing hard and that seemed to matter, now the reality's come, is that it does seem like having the 2 small guards, and we don't say the M word anymore on this podcast, probably prevented them from taking Tyrese Halliburton in the draft, right? And it's certainly put them in a spot where, yes, you want to be different. You want to do, to try some things and eventually have an identity that not everybody else has because that's how you're going to get to where you want to go. But, it's not a game for small guards. The NBA in 2020, LeBron fucking James is a point guard. Right? That's what it is. So, and then, you're making decisions. Colin Sexton is a kid still. Darius Garland did not have any college career, and he had, half a rookie season? Right. It was 2 weeks this year, right? Isaac Okoro, 1 college season, 19 years old. It's hard. It's hard. To get any full evaluation, to think that they can thrive in a grown man's league. All of the above, right, Dre? So, yeah. I will just say this. Enjoying listening and then watching those Nets games and then, as they've played notable opponents, I did. But lately, I've turned it on multiple times in the second quarter. They're down 19, and they don't appear to be giving much effort. Or maybe not capable. I hate to say that. Maybe not capable of getting back in. So why am I going to watch? Right. And as the losses started to mount, We didn't talk about it in the last podcast, which is fine. My thought was, well, losing's still the goal. It's just really awkward. Like, Jared Allen is a unique player and a really gifted player. You know, Prince was a first-rounder only 5 years ago. Like,
right.
I don't think they're in...
I like Allen.
I don't think they're in terrible shape compared to where they were a couple of years ago. I just wonder, you know, where and when you could really make up any ground without absolutely hitting the lottery.
Well, they got to hit. I mean, let's be honest. I like Allen. I like Allen so much more than I like Drummond for what he brings to the table. And maybe after you give him a huge contract, because the Drummond thing, you pointed out Drummond so well. At UConn, he's always been this guy, and it's not his fault. And I almost feel like the game of basketball has hurt Andre Drummond more than Andre Drummond's hurt Andre Drummond. I feel like he's come up in this stage where we no longer teach a 7-footer to be a 7-footer and to put his force upon people, right? Like most 6'11", 7-foot guys are now shooting 3-pointers, and I don't want to be the old guy, you know. I don't want to be the old guy at the club, but he needed at some point in his development, he needed someone to teach him. He's one of the first 7-footers I've ever seen that has no moves on the block. Like, Zach is scary. Like, no one has ever taught him, you're the biggest guy out here in the court. Come down here on this block, put up your right hand, drop your ass a little bit, drop your knees a little bit, and you should be able to score 8 times out of 10 when you put somebody on your back in this situation. You never see that from him, and it's never been asked of him, whether it be in Detroit, whether it be at the University of Connecticut, and now here in Cleveland. And there are times now when they do dump it down to him, you just cringe because it's like he's just an athlete down there. He's not a 7-footer. And then sometimes he dribbles from the top of the key, and we all cringe. I just feel like he's never been, and I could be wrong. I feel, though, he's hurt by the times that he's in. Where Allen, probably because he wasn't that skilled coming up, and he was just tall and kind of just like a shot blocker, he at least knows how to pick and roll. He doesn't ask for the ball if it's not a pick and roll. If it's not to him, he runs to the glass to get the rebound. And really, with the way the NBA runs now, that is your best bet as a big man. So it works for him. And he's almost an energy guy, which is weird to say about a 7-footer, but that's what he is. You can grow with that, especially if you have a small guard. But to me, they've got to get a star at the 3 or the 4. They've got to move Garland and get a 2 guard and make Okoro. And you need a stud at the 2 or 3 that can put the ball in the basket, point blank. That's the only way they can make it out of the middle ground that they're in my opinion right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you're going to have to take some risks, right? And I talked about the hitting on the 2 of the 10 thing in swinging, but when you got these young players and you've had different circumstances where you don't know, eventually you have to make a decision, and it might be too early, right? But eventually they're going to have to say our roster construction is not going to win. We're not going to win with these 2 small guards. One of them has to go. What's their value? I don't know. I don't have any idea. Right? Seti has been a year away from being a year away for 5 years now. He has a 20-point game. He makes shots when he's open. Is he anything more than an 8th man? Or is he even that on a team that's a contender? I don't know.
It's so funny you asked that. So funny because I saw him hit a basket last night, and I thought to myself, and this isn't being mean, but if you're a fan, you get what I'm getting ready to say. Zach, you just hit on it perfectly. I was like, what would Jetty be on another team? You know what I mean? We always tell people, and I hope players get this in all sports, make the most, but with the team that drafts you, because the next team you go to will not carry or care about where you were drafted or how much money they paid you. They're going to make you just fit into a spot, and if you don't work in that spot, you got to go, right? Where Jetty has gotten opportunities off the bench, he's gotten opportunities to start, and I think we all just kind of see him as Sasha Pavlik of this time period. And a slashing 2.5.
Important rule: you can only compare white players to other white players. So good job.
Well, they're both foreign, and I went above and beyond. They're both foreign as
yes.
well. Not only white, but foreign. You get what I'm saying.
I know
on another
exactly
team,
what
he's
you're
probably
saying.
He's like a 10th or 11th guy, and that's not a mean thing. But it just hasn't developed to the point where you know what the hell you're getting from him, where some nights you'll get 15. And then the next 3 nights you're going to get 2, 6, and 9.
Yeah. Like, and the other thing with the NBA that I've been wanting to bring up, Dre, why would they force an all-star game?
Not reading the room at all.
Not reading the room at all. Like, if anything, announce like a revamped all-star break and have like a revamped schedule and have a week where, you know, there's only 5 games and 4 nights and they're all marquee games and stagger everybody's time off of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something. Nobody's going to care. And when there's no festivities and it just feels like you had already said we're not going to do it, and, you know, there's travel is such a concern and everything is such a concern, and the testing just wears on people mentally. You know, the walking on eggshells wears on everybody mentally. You're going to say we're going to take all our best players to Atlanta for what reason? It just not a little bit extra, just really extra, really no feel on making that call.
Well, no, it's not. And I think, you know what, though? It's a perfect example of where we're at in our world. All these companies, we want normal, right? When we did our last baseball game for Sports Time Ohio, I can tell you, as we walked out, we were all like, gosh, thank God we got through this. Can't wait to do this next year where we can get back to normal.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's not normal yet. And I think for these companies, and I'm speaking of the NBA, and look, the NFL, out of the 3 major leagues, which one feels the best about itself right now?
NFL.
The NFL, because they got through their season and got through their championship, right?
Yeah.
Baseball felt that way 3 months ago. NBA felt that way at the end of the bubble. And now, you know, it's like, okay, you've seen NFL get through their season, get through their playoffs, crown a champion, so on and so forth. I think for basketball, that's a big weekend. And I'll give the NBA credit. For the most part, Silver has done when you consider all the hurdles that have had to be overcome over the last year for NBA, he's done pretty well. But here's the conundrum they're running into, just like every other major corporation across America. The bottom line, Zach. The bottom line is what it is. And we still cannot, look, it's a TV deal. I'm sure, and I don't know this for certain. So if I'm wrong and somebody that knows more than me, call me, text me, whatever, tap me on the hand and tell me I'm wrong. Well, I'm sure TNT is kind of like, hey, these 5 days off are cool and everything, but we got sponsors on our ass that want their money back and we don't give them something. Like whenever there's a decision made that makes us scratch our head, Zach and I have always known this. We always go to this, go to the money, go to the bottom line. And it's not, the players aren't happy about it. And very rarely does anything come out of the NBA and come out and LeBron, and you blame it on LeBron. But very rarely do you see LeBron, Giannis, I think, came out right after. He was like, whatever LeBron says, I'm with. I don't get it. This is obviously one of those situations where they're trying to keep everybody happy, Zach. But it's pretty obvious. You can force an all-star game, but you can't force these guys to play in you can't force an all-star game. And from the TV marketing sense of things, I hate to say it because we've kind of seen it, and I got to be careful how I say this. To the TV markets and to the TV companies at top, they're just like, we don't care if announcers are there or not, or if all the players are there or not. If we can just brand, this is an all-star game, this is all-star weekend, and we can sell that to the people we owe money to or the people that we get the most money from, we'll take it, no matter how good or bad the product is. Unfortunately, that's kind of what the consumer has been forced over the last 9 months, if you ask me. And unfortunately, that's what's coming to this, and it's a bad, bad move.
It just seems like it was a built-in to escape that, and you could, whoever has the All-Star game, I think it's TNT, right? Like, you could just push that back an extra year. You could give them something. Anyway, Jerry, we're almost at 45 minutes. Let's talk about J.J. Watt and the Browns. I know we just kind of swapped ideas for 30 seconds before we came on here. It was reported that they were one of the first teams to call on the first day, which makes a lot of sense, right? Fixing the defense, real contender.
Mm-hmm.
And in a base defense, they would have a spot for him. He has played mostly left defensive end, right? And that's where Olivier Vernon's spot has been vacated. So, you could get him, and then you could draft a young guy, and JJ could tutor him, and JJ could play inside on pass downs. He's going to be 32 years old. It's going to be year 11. he's missed some significant time, the torn pectoral, and a couple of other things. To me, it's obvious that the Browns, J.J. Watt could help the Browns. He's still been a good player. He hasn't been 16 and a half sack guy, which is, just outlandish to start with. He did it multiple times, right? But he's been a good player by every metric and, comes in with an impeccable reputation as a person. And obviously he's going to, he's only going to play another year or two. He's going to want to play high-stakes games. The Steelers, where his brothers play, it's just not realistic. They have no money whatsoever. Maybe JJ will play for the minimum, but I don't think so. So to me, it's just, what are the Browns really willing to pay him? The Browns are in a healthy cap spot, guys. However, they have things that they've never had before. They've never had a quarterback get to a fourth year and starts making real money, right? When they extended Myles Garrett last year, they just have not done that. And so his price is up and Denzel's price is up, even before they probably extend Denzel. Nick Chubb, I believe they'll extend him. Last year they went and got the Conklin and the Hooper and those guys were really good players. They carry big salaries, so they don't have just total freewheeling money. They have plenty of money. There would have to be a little bit of creative accounting involved if you wanted to get J.J. Watt and then still get that 26, 27-year-old big ticket free agent 4 weeks from now. So,
go
ahead.
No, you're dead on. But I'll say this. First of all, I love saying this because it ain't our money. And the Haslams, I've done, and doing research over everything else. The Haslams made a decision. Nobody would call the Haslams cheap, correct? Even the U.S. government, who got about $200 billion. And because of that, the Haslams have never been cheap. They made the scoreboard look like University of Tennessee, so we knew we were in Cleveland, but they felt at home. They've changed the uniforms. They've given money. They've passed money out like every Browns owner does. But they also, in the process of building this, not to bring people down, but I want to take us back down the road that got us here. They also, at times, Mr. Jackson, made some money when they decided winning was not the most important thing. And yes, I want to be careful on how I say this because, like I said, I'm not calling them cheap. And they basically bought the draft pick that brought Chubb here. They took on contracts and took on other things that most organizations wouldn't. But they also, during that period of time where they won one game over 2 seasons, they made money. They made a lot of money. All owners do. But they didn't spend a lot at times where they could have, where you could have kept simple guys. So what I would say to this, I'll ask you a simple question, and I think I know what most Browns fans are going to say. Is the window open for the football team that wears orange helmets in Cleveland?
Yes.
Is there any guarantee how long that window will open in the NFL?
Nothing is guaranteed in the National Football League, sir.
Therefore, I say, and you guys know us, who J.J. Watt is as a player right now is up to dispute. He's not, like Zach said, he's not J.J. Watt at 26 years old. But also, here's the thing that I envision, and I know the PFF ranking says he was 7th at his position. I'm careful with that because that's a 3-4 DN that we're talking about. I know Zach's saying it's the same position, and in ways it is. But a 3-4 DN and a 4-3 DN are very different. And Zach even wrote about in his article, at his age, at his where he's at, he may thrive playing inside, especially on passing downs. If you could put him next to Myles Garrett, could you imagine putting those two next to each other on passing downs and putting a young or a rookie or putting a rookie defensive end with some speed out on the other side and the damage that you could create, or just putting both of them on the outside and letting them go. I think this is something you got to take a serious consideration at looking at and doing, because of just what I just put out there. It can help one of your prize guys that you already have, Myles Garrett. It can help him thrive. And if I told you having J.J. Watt could take Myles Garrett from 11, 12 sacks to possibly 20, I don't think you would bat your eye at it. You would do it. If I told you it's going to cost a lot of money and you may not be able to go out and get, outside linebacker that you really covet or a corner that you may covet, that you may have to change the money around and maybe get rid of, maybe you have to get rid of an offensive guy that, like a Chris Hubbard or someone like that, that drive that you need, that's important. I think that you have to look at it because I think it makes a statement to the players in the clubhouse, but it also makes a statement to the rest of the NFL, and it gives them something else. As we talk about when games matter, it gives teams something else to think about, something else to deal with. Because who knows what it does for J.J. Watt. Now, I'm saying all of that. If you don't get him, you can thrive this offseason. I just think that it's just like we talk about with gambling. There's risk and rewards in any move you make. I just don't see the risk too high with the J.J. Watt because of the individual that he is, because of the performances he's put up in the past, and because of what you already have on that defense and on that defensive line. And it also makes the young guys, the young linebackers, we talked about in the last podcast, the importance of a guy like Phillips. And Mac Wilson's still here. He still ain't tackling anybody, but he's here tweeting. You put another bona fide pro up front, who we saw walk off the field with Deshaun Watson this year, put his arm around him and apologize and said, "I'm sorry that this team just wasted one of your years of your career." That's the type of focus you want, right? You want a J.J. Watt who can put his arm around Mac Wilson and say, "You better wrap up." That can put his arm around, around Baker Mayfield and say, "Hey, man, don't worry about what they're tweeting. We have to win now." I think bringing in a little maturity into the room doesn't hurt if it's the right maturity. And I think
completely agree with that.
So I would go for it.
Yeah. And that is a part of the case, no doubt. And there are 8 ways they can make the money work and still get other guys. My one holdup is I view Watt as a bonus piece right now, right? Like, ideally, you'd have J.J. Watt and he would play 30 snaps a game, right? Because he's going to be 32. It's going to be year 11, right? So,
right.
In that sense, and you have to, go one of the 8 routes to create the money, I like that. They've arrived at the spot where every decision they make, Dre, has to come with, this is something we've been talking about for years, going back to Cavs Warriors, speaking of the good old days, not tonight's game. We are trying to beat the Ravens. We're trying to beat the Chiefs. Those are the 2 decisions the 2 things the Browns have to do and judge and evaluate and ask in every decision they make. So J.J. Watt as part of a revamped defensive front and bringing all those things, which you said, which are absolutely important, and it's a good point, and it's why you want to be in on the bidding. Yes. J.J. Watt is my starting left defensive end and 1 rookie, and then, a safety. I'm not sure because I'm going to be worried about what J.J. Watt is really going to have left in the tank when the games that count come around.
Right.
And I don't know, and he's obviously proven he's going to take great care of himself. He's going to show up. He's going to tutor those guys. Father Time is undefeated. So, to me, J.J. Watt is the bonus piece and who brings all of those things that you said, whether he has 4 sacks or 8 sacks, or whether Miles has 12 or 14 or 22. I mean, the intrigue, the reasons you go get J.J. Watt are obvious. It's just the actual fit in terms of how we go. And this is the other thing that the Browns are encountering here, Dre, that they just haven't been to. Through all these rebuilds, and everybody wanted to buy into them, locking up the Joel Batonios of the world. And even last year, locking up Kareem Hunt on that team-friendly contract and, settling that uncertainty of everything and saying to Kareem, we laid out expectations for you and you did it, and now go help us win football games, which is why you're here. That's all fine and dandy, and that's what you can do in the ideal world. When you're here and you're trying to win, a lot of times you have to fly year by year. And Sheldon Richardson's going to be 31 and has 1 year left on his deal, right? Larry Ogunjobi's going to be a free agent. We don't know if he's going to be back. I don't know. Jordan Elliott didn't play a whole lot, didn't show. I mean, the point is, okay, let's find out as we go on the defensive line, right? It's super important.
Well,
Andrew Billings is going to come off this, assuming he wants to come back, he's going to be only under contract for 1 more year. So, yes, you would love to be able to have 25-year-old guys and love to be able to know that the guy in the first round you're going to pick is important, whether he plays 30 snaps this year or 60. But, sometimes you just have to let it go and see where it goes.
Let me ask you this quickly. we both are fans of Sheldon Richardson and what he's meant to the Browns. I think I can say that, right? We both respect what he's done. Would you be willing to say, if the Browns say, hey, we're going to bring J.J. Watt in here, but if we bring him in here, we got to release Sheldon Richardson? How would that sit with you?
To me, the way Sheldon Richardson has played the last 2 years, that's a quick no, an easy no.
Okay, but those are the type of decisions they're going to have to make, though, right? Like, because of what you just said. Because of what you just said, I'm not saying you're wrong, because you're not. But this is the hard part, and we talked about this right at the end of the season. And it's the fun part, but this is how we're going to judge. This is how we're going to judge this front office. We both know that there's something about chemistry and something of the things that Sheldon Richardson's brought along in the last couple of years that's meaningful for this franchise. And this decision really may come down to, as Zach broke down all the others, the Billings and the guy they drafted, and maybe there's somebody in the draft they can draft this year, and that is a defensive lineman or a interior defensive lineman. And it may come down to, if we're going to put more big money into our defensive front, we may have to release Sheldon Richardson to bring J.J. Watt in. I don't know the answer, but I trust your answer better. I just think that's the type of conversation they're going to have, and it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I don't think it comes to that. If you want to bring J.J. Watt and a big money safety and a big edge rusher in, maybe. I mean, Sheldon's going to carry the third highest cap number on the team, but I just think that's because you pay for good players, and he's been a good player, and you only have him for one more year. So I think before they would release him, they would, maybe redo and add a year and move that money around, right? Guys, the salary cap is a credit card.
Right.
You
But
can
that's how the
always
good teams do it.
get, the salary cap is a credit card. You can always get more. You're just going to pay for it down the road, right?
Right.
It's interesting. Do I envision the Browns being in JJ's top 4 without knowing the guy? Yeah. I mean, based on the fact that he's going to want some money. But do I really think, that they'd be ahead of the Packers or maybe even the Cowboys, or that he would play for 6 or 7 rather than 9 or 10? I don't know. I don't know those answers. So it's almost always about the money, guys. And I think it will be here because, J.J. Watt grew up going to Green Bay Packers training camp, right?
That's who the number one team's got to be, right?
Yeah, J.J. Watt is a known commodity and a Hall of Famer, and what do the Raiders and the Cowboys do, Dre? They make splashes. And the Browns have arrived at the splash stage.
Right.
But, one of those teams might throw an outrageous amount at him, and he might say,
well,
you might look at the NFC East and say, my God, we can win it. We can get to the Super Bowl.
Right. Well, here, I'll give it like this. Sentimentally, it would be Green Bay or Pittsburgh because his brothers play on one, and the other is the team he grew up with. So I could see both of those franchises taking a little less. Maybe the Browns fit in that because he can play against his brothers twice a year, but I doubt it. Then you have the big, like you said, the splash teams, the NFC East, and obviously the Raiders and Cowboys. And then you have – so where do the Browns fit in that is what I would say to you. Because off the top of my head, I say Green Bay's got to be sitting in the front spot. The Steelers got to be sitting in the top 2 or 3. Then it kind of – are the Browns 3rd, 4th? I think that's about where they sit right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They sit about 3rd or 4th in this race coming out of the gates.
Yeah, they're in it. But, I don't know. I mean, I guess JJ this week is going to talk to some teams. Whether he's actually going to do it and he's going to say, I would prefer to go to A and B, you sort it out, or whether they're going to shop at a certain number and eliminate teams that way, I don't know. But as very outside observers, we're obviously not watching every snap of J.J. Watt last year, right? Just knowing what the guy's been and where he's played and what he would mean. I do agree that the Browns can make that kind of move that the Ravens have done for years. Bring in that one guy who's at the end who can make your younger guys better. That the Browns can say, we really are the kind of team that we think J.J. Watt, even if he only gave us 5 sacks, will really make our young guys better. I just don't know what you pay for that there. And like I said, if you say this is our headline edition of the offseason when you're in win now mode and he gets hurt in week 5, and you can't think this way, but that's just the reality, right? Then Your defense stinks.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, look, that's the draw for all. I get what you're saying, but I'm going to say something to you, young Chief, that you got to remember. And you know this, you can't live thinking that way. No. I get what you're saying, and it goes back to what Phil Savage told us back in 05, 06. The Browns and the Berea have to stop with the woe is me thought process. And as he said, I get why we have it. I get why we're here. But for us to go to step forward, we no longer can think with the woe is us franchise thought process. Now, you're right. If day one he blows out an Achilles or blows out a tendon and that's all that money wrapped up in it, it sucks. You're screwed. But I can go around every NFL training camp, and there's like 5-6 dudes. If they go down, your season is done. Yeah. It's just part of it.
I can't wait for a training camp with real expectations when everybody starts bitching about the veterans getting days off and all that stuff.
Right.
No, Dre, I'll close on this. It's week 13. It's Sunday night in Baltimore, and you're up by 4. And they fake one way on the read option, and Lamar peels back the other way. Can J.J. Watt keep him from getting to the edge?
I'd like to see it because I think he's smart enough to stay in his lane and smart enough to figure out what the blocking scheme is.
Then pay him his 10 and get him on a fucking flight.
There it is. But because you're right. That's what it comes down to.
That's an if. I don't know that answer. I don't know if he can or not.
Well, I don't know if there's anybody on the planet that can.
Right.
Damn it, I want the best guys that got.
We're presuming that the safety's actually going to cover Marquise Brown this time and not let him run right down the middle of the field wide open. So,
well, Grant Delpit. And that's what. All right. Here's the other thing. How much do they believe in the guys they brought in here? Is the real question, Zach. This is the last thing I'll put on this. How much Andrew Berry and crew believe in Delpit, Phillips, the kid they traded for from the Raiders, whose contract's up? How much do they believe in those moves is the real question. How much do they believe in their secondary coach is the question. How much does Coach Brown, how much do they feel their defense, they can cover up some of their holes if they have that piece in the front of it?
No, those are questions we're not going to know until they get in games, because how much were they handicapped personnel-wise last year by not having Delpit, by being so slow at linebacker, right? By, having to shuffle guys in and out, not having the depth. I mean, really the one thing we know is that Miles played both sides for the first time in his career, consistently played both sides, not just on occasion, and picking his matchup and whatever. But what do they really want to do as far as mixing guys there? And, you don't play base defense, but against Baltimore you do. Against most teams you don't. So what really is your preferred construction in terms of 2nd and 8, 3rd and 5? Those plays are going to Dre, when you're here, a few third downs are going to dictate the Browns season, right? And few third downs and fourth downs are going to determine whether you get there or not, right? That's how it's going to be.
Let me ask you this. Who would you have rather had on 3rd down and 11 in Kansas City with the backup quarterback playing? Grant Delpit or J.J. Watt?
Grant Delpit.
Yeah, buddy. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you bring up the good one with Jackson and what's happening on 3rd and 5, and he tries to escape the pocket. Yeah. I'd much rather have Myles Garrett and J.J. Watt trying to trap him than Myles Garrett and whomever else. But you're right. What's going on in the back 7? If I'm in Kansas City again, how am I? Because that's the question. How am I going to beat Mahomes? What will help us beat Mahomes? Well, I just think we watched the Tampa Bay Bucks a week ago beat the crap out of him with their front 4 being better than the Chiefs' front 5. So is that the way the Browns build it? We'll get a bunch of young guys. The Kansas City Chiefs, the model the Chiefs had, they get after the quarterback with Jones, Kenny, both. If you think about the Super Bowl defenses, they both have some high-priced, big-name guys in the front 4, right? Tampa and KC, with a lot of youth that a lot of people didn't know in the secondary. It got them to the final game of the season. And we all know it's a copycat league. I think there's always secondary coaches, always defensive coaches that would rather have talent up front or rather, have specimens up front and have speed in the back that they think they can teach. That's just how I've always watched.
No, you need a stable. You're going to beat the Ravens and the Chiefs, but specifically the Chiefs. You need a stable of both. You need a stable of defensive backs and a stable of D linemen. Right now, the Browns have neither. They might have at least one here in a few weeks, but right now, as constructed, they have neither. If Delpit comes back healthy and him and Ronnie Harrison start balling, and Greedy's healthy, and or another guy comes in there, yes. But right now, you don't have that, so you're not all the way there. So that has to be. I totally agree. And look, last year the NFC representative was San Francisco with arguably the best defensive line in the league, right? This year it was Tampa Bay. Shaq Barrett, free agent. JPP, trade. Vita Vea, first round pick. You got to invest major resources into building that. You do. So in that regard, this conversation, Dre, and we'll get out of here on this thought. This last 15 minutes has made me shift more to the side of absolutely the Browns should go get J.J. Watt. I just am worried about a 32-year-old guy in year 11 holding up when you're trying to play.
No doubt.
When you know that weeks 12 through 18 are going to be the ones that define your season.
No doubt. Let me say this to you on that note. Because we never think of it this way, but we should think of it this way. It's easier to keep your job if you're Andrew Berry if you swing and miss on J.J. Watt than if you swing and miss and go outside the box and you miss on a bunch of rookies or some other free agent. Why? Because the owner knows J.J. Watt. Because the radio hosts know J.J. Watt. Because the average fan knows J.J. Watt. And they would all shrug their shoulders and say, damn, we thought that would help us. You go do it with and that doesn't mean it's the right decision or wrong decision, but it's the way to keep your job because no one will blame them for swinging and missing on J.J. Watt.
You know what? I'm glad you said that because I was talking on the phone to my boss this morning. And I said, Carl Lawson is probably 11 times a better fit for the Browns.
Yep.
But for our purposes, JJ.
Right. And you're right about Lawson. That's a great point. You're right about Lawson. But, as you just said, if you bring J.J. Watt up in front. Look, if you do it with Lawson, as we know, half the radio stations don't even know who he is, and they'll be reading out of a book to figure out what it is and reading people's tweets about what makes him good and what makes him bad. You bring in J.J. Watt, every person has an idea or has seen J.J. Watt in a commercial. They've seen him catching balls in the crowd with kids before the game. They've seen him score touchdowns here against the Browns. You know J.J. You know him giving money back to Houston. You don't lose – I hate to say this. You don't lose the first – you don't lose the – why can't I think of the word? You don't lose the people are going nuts right now. You don't lose the press conference. You win the press conference immediately.
No,
so
you're right. You're right. Again, like we've said, Andrew Berry, great grades, sharp guy. Browns seem to be in good hands, and that's damn exciting. But, man, the decisions that define where this thing goes have only begun to even be made, right? So on that note, thank you guys for listening. Thanks for sticking with us. At Akron Jackson, at Dre Knott. We appreciate you guys. We hope you enjoyed another A to Z podcast.
Konnichiwa, Andre Drummond. Enjoy that money until they send you to somewhere else to piss people off.